Welcome to our latest episode of So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast on Western Mass News. I'm Tyler Garnett.
And I'm Chris Mazza.
And we'll be your host for today's episode. Chris, I know we have a very exciting episode today. You've stated before, I'm also myself a little bit of a history buff, American history around that, and I can't wait to talk to the two guests we have.
Well, of course, for me, the joke is once you reach a certain age, I think it's once you get past 40, you have to either become really interested in American history or really interested in smoked meats.
Yep.
I fall into both of those categories.
Right in the middle of the Venn diagram. Very nice.
So, yeah, and I mean, I think that it's great. We also live in an area here in Western Massachusetts, really New England and the Northeast, that is basically you're surrounded by history, and it may just be at this point like, a park or, a building that is in between two more modern buildings or whatever. But the history of our nation really starts here in the Northeast. And so we're really surrounded by it. And I think that that's really cool, and I don't think that we always have the appreciation for it that we should.
Yeah.
So events like the one we're going to be talking about today, I think, are really cool, really exciting, and offer great opportunity for not only kids, because I think it's important for kids to learn that, but also for adults to gain a better understanding, because a lot of our beginning knowledge is cursory. It's the textbook and then anything that we may have read later on in life, but this is an opportunity to bring this stuff to life.
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of just historical sites around here, I mean, you talked about before the Armory right in Springfield, and I've even talked to the Agawam Historical Society president, who we will interview in a few moments, about their upcoming flea market at Thomas Smith House. I mean, he says that is so well preserved from back then that it almost looks like you're living in that time when you walk onto the grounds. So, just hearing about that, and I think the best way sometimes to learn about history outside of reading about it is just to see it, and kind of immerse yourself within it. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, and really, I mean, this out here in Western Mass, we're especially blessed in that there are these kind of untouched sites. You go to Boston, and have you been to Boston or at all or recently?
Recently, kind of, yeah.
So you'll notice, like the old church is surrounded by giant modern buildings. So it's not really within the basically it's almost at a place, whereas you've got something excuse me, like this site in Agawam that is really preserved as it was, So I think that that's something that's really great that we have here in Western Massachusetts.
No, I agree. I mean, just if you walk around Boston, you could see a nameplate on a building that says established in 1763 next to you walking outside of a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that. So it is nice, but I look forward to it. And like we mentioned, this episode is kind of with coming up on Saturday, April 19th. Members of the 25th Continental Regiment and the Green Valley Homestead reenactment groups will establish the 18th century encampment at the historic Thomas Smith House in Feeding Hills. The reenactment is in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the shot heard around the world and the call to arms responding to the April 19th, 1775 battles of Lexington and Concord. And it's pretty cool that they are able to plan this event on April 19th, literally 255 years later, or 250 years later, rather.
Yep. And our two guests today are Agawam Historical Society President David Cecci and Rob Keenan from the 25th Continental Regiment. And really, I think we need to kind of paint the picture a little bit.
Yes, definitely.
Rob was here in full regalia. I mean, he was decked out, and we offered him a chair, and he with the amount of gear that he had, including his musket and everything else, he basically said, if I sit It's going to be difficult for me to sit
Yes.
in a chair.
Yes, definitely. And, you'll hear the interview in just a few short moments, but he'll describe everything he's wearing. And, just by looking at it, it would have been probably tough for him to sit. So if you do hear any audio of him a little further away, it was just for him standing up for the interview. But, I think without further ado, we appreciate them for stopping by, and we'll get right into the interview after a few short messages.
We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news. Are you hearing wedding bells? Take a deep breath. Go Local Magazine has your back. Our wedding special section is your one-stop resource to the best in local photographers, caterers, florists, venues, and so much more. Get inspired by the couples who share their special day with us. Then check out the experts who created their perfect event. It's all here and all at your fingertips in Go Local. And are you an advertiser looking to reach local couples planning a wedding? Contact Sales Manager Scott Green at 525-6695 to be part of Go Local Weddings.
All right. Well, I'd like to offer welcome to our guests today and offer you guys first the opportunity to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your roles in this whole operation.
I'm David Cecci. I'm the president of the Agawam Historical Association, and we're hosting a 18th century encampment and militia muster on April 19th.
I'm Rob Keenan. I'm the captain and president of the 25th Continental Regiment, a reenacted regiment that actually fought in the Revolutionary War, and I'll sort of be the ringleader for the reenactors who will be on site on April 19th at the Thomas Smith House over in Feeding Hills.
Gotcha. And actually, before we get into the event, I know this is a audio-only podcast. Can you talk a little bit about the outfit you're wearing?
Okay, what I'm wearing is basically a simple farmer's outfit from 1775, 1776. The fun thing about doing this is that people always assume that from what they've been taught in history and the whole Paul Revere poem, people, are ready in a moment's notice to go out and fight the British. Well, it took me about 20 minutes to get dressed up like this, another 5 minutes to put the footgear on. I'm basically wearing a shirt, knee breeches, a waistcoat, wool stockings that go up to my knees, a blanket shirt over what we'd call small clothes. It would be my outside, garment for working around the farm. I'm carrying some accoutrements that you would see on a militiaman at the time, preferably an alarm company rather than a minute company. The minute company, Minutemen, they're supposed to be ready in a minute. Mm-hmm. Again, they're rushing out of the house in a shirt and carrying a gun in their hands, and that's it. For an alarm company, the older, slower folks like myself, wearing a cartridge box on my right hip, which would hold my ammunition, a haversack holding my personal belongings, a canteen. I slung a blanket over my shoulder in case I was going to be away from home for a while, which many of the men in 1775 were. And I'm also carrying a Brown Bess musket in my hands.
Yes. Yeah, definitely can't miss that one. And I'm sure this is pretty accurate to the times, everything you just said, too.
Oh, yes. Again, there were no real uniforms for Americans. There were some groups. John Hancock's Corps of Cadets down in Boston had their own snazzy little uniforms. Benedict Arnold's group out of New Haven, the Governor's Foot Guard, they had uniforms, but a lot of groups did not have actual uniforms. That came in later. And even for the American Army, we were never fully uniformed at any time during the entire course of the American Revolution. So what you see is typically what you'd get.
Gotcha.
Now, this is going to be a reenactment of the call to arms in response to the battles of Lexington and Concord. And before we get into what people can expect to see from your event, can you guys just provide listeners with a little bit of context as to what led up to this event that 250 years later?
So if are you talking about today or the historical?
Historical,
Okay.
kind of, so that when people are walking into this, they have an idea of what events led to what is being reenacted.
Yeah, Rob could.
Okay. Have to understand that this just didn't happen overnight.
Sure.
This was a long-standing set of circumstances and grievances back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean. The Stamp Act, the Tea Act. Unfortunately, the result of the Tea Act was what we call the coercive acts or intolerable acts, where they closed down the Port of Boston, they dissolved the Massachusetts provincial government. It was really a nasty situation to get back for actually a minimal amount of tea that was disposed of. But because of the passage of these acts punishing Massachusetts, militia started training on a regular basis. What it used to be a social event now became in earnest. The British government in Boston learned that the colonists were collecting munitions and supplies to provide for the militia. And on a number of occasions, they actually sent out expeditions to try to stop this. The first of which actually was in February, beginning of March, a march on Salem, which was turned back by a rather clever set of circumstances. Large force of British soldiers against a large force of militia standing off on either side of the bridge over the stream at Salem. A local clergyman proposed a solution that, what are the British orders? Well, we're supposed to go into town and look for munitions. Well, how about you just cross the bridge, look to your left, look to your right, and if you don't see anything, go home. That fulfilled the orders, the letter of the orders, kept everything calm, no bloodshed. General Gage, the British military governor, was highly upset because nothing was actually accomplished. So he decided in April he was going to send another force out to Concord, where it was a known depot of colonial supplies. Unfortunately for General Gage, his headquarters was about as stealthy and secret as nothing. Everybody in town, to be honest with you, everybody in Boston, all the civilians, knew about the operation before the British soldiers who were going to conduct it did.
Nice.
He also picked a very unimaginative officer, Colonel Francis Smith, to lead the force because he didn't want Smith getting creative like they did at Salem.
Mm-hmm.
It started off badly. It was executed badly. It ended badly, and here we are 250 years later celebrating our 250th anniversary, the start of our War of Independence.
Yeah, of course. That sounds great. And now that we have a little bit of the historical background, do you guys mind just talking a little bit about what people can expect the events that you guys are hosting on April 19th?
Well, the Thomas Smith House, which was built in the 1750s, it's in original condition. It was last updated in the 1800s. There's no central heat, there's no central plumbing. It really is a time capsule, and the Historical Association is preserving the house in that condition. And so we felt that it was a great opportunity to have the 25th Continental out to the house. They've been out before. They do a wonderful job portraying that time period, and we're just happy to be able to actually do it on April 19th. It happened to be on a Saturday, so it all worked out this year.
Now, this is going to be going on, as you said, April 19th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Can you describe some of the scene that people are going to see when they come to this, some of the activities that are going to be going on, and what they're going to be experiencing as part of this really day-long event?
Well, in addition to the 25th Continental Regiment, we're also having a group, the Green Valley Homestead reenactment group will be out also. So they'll be doing tinsmithing demonstrations and cooking demonstrations. And so they'll be out at the house also. And I'll let Rob talk about the schedule. He's put together a great schedule for the day.
Well, basically, we want to start out at 10 o'clock, opening the site and starting ongoing activities such as the smithing, not only tinsmithing, but blacksmithing, cooking, sewing. The Green Valley Homestead folks have offered to bring some animals, some barnyard animals, and we'll have folks being able to go and observe the animals and interact with the folks who take care of them. We're going to do camp tours, as well as the Dawson set, the Thomas Smith House will be doing house tours. And my goal is to start enlisting spectators as members of the militia. They'll have to sign their name or make their mark in a ledger book, and we'll provide them with wooden muskets and start teaching them some basic drill before our alarm company has to start marching off to Boston. And we're going to be doing those activities pretty much ongoing during the day. At 10:30, we actually want to recreate what it would have been like when the express riders, Paul Revere wasn't the only guy out on a horse that night. People were spreading out across Massachusetts. The alarm was spread to West Springfield, to Northampton. Folks started heading to Boston when the alarm occurred. And we'd like to recreate, okay, we're hanging around here at the house. We were going to have a little social event. Bells start ringing, gunshots go off as a warning, messengers start arriving with, the regulars are out. Remember, they didn't say the British are coming. We were all British. If somebody rode through your neighborhood screaming the British are coming, you'd think he was drunk and ask for him to stop. So the regulars are out. We're starting to gather together, doing some training before we start marching off to Boston, and we'll be trying to recreate that throughout the day, giving spectators a chance as they come in to enroll. As I told David last night during a meeting that, I might be inclined to arrest some loyalists if they show up. But, we want to provide an entertaining but factual historical event for the folks who arrive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be not only a fun viewing experience, sounds like they can be immersed into the reenactment itself, which is awesome.
Yes, we like doing that, especially with kids. We do marching drill with kids at numerous events, but this is also a chance to get the adults involved. Again, as you said, immerse the folks in what's actually happening, give them a feel for what it's like. It's going to be a tense moment. In some respects, because all this, messing around, like I said, militia drill used to be, you go out, you march around this town green for a couple of hours, and then you have a picnic. This isn't that.
Yeah.
We will have food for the reenactors only, unfortunately. But aside from anything that the Historical Association might be doing as far as refreshments, but we'll be showing cooking procedures. Really, my goal is, if you've ever seen the 1992 Last of the Mohicans, there's a scene in which the British officer is trying to recruit militia in the French and Indian War. It's a very similar circumstance, and that's the kind of thing that we want to portray. Everything short of the lacrosse game, which could get really violent, we'd rather do something a little bit lower key than that, and make sure everybody goes home having had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Rather than bearing the wounds of a 18th century lacrosse game. But that kind of experience, where they're able to look around, see, touch as much as possible, and really be able to immerse themselves in, again, as David had pointed out, it is the 250th anniversary on the date.
Yeah.
And it's really important. And this is an experience, too, for us in Western Massachusetts. Eastern Mass, they're having the Lexington and Concord Battle Road celebration. It's going to be big, but this is for us here in Western Massachusetts. We wouldn't have been on the front line on the morning of April 19th. We would have been hearing about it throughout the day and possibly into the next day before the able-bodied men say, okay, enough's enough. The taxes were crazy. The punishment's crazy. Let's go show them a thing or two after they killed a couple of our people. So that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, not only is it going to be fun, it sounds pretty informative. I mean, only talking these 10 minutes, I already learned that it's not the British are coming. I thought that's how it's been portrayed in movies and books for however long I've been alive, so I'm learning something already.
Yeah, as I say, and the other fun thing is, I'm not a big Paul Revere fan, personally. Revere was, as I described it to somebody recently, a good little doobie for the Committee of Safety in the Provincial Congress that was, basically meeting illegally outside of Boston. Yeah, he had a role of alarming everybody, but nobody really talks about Billy Dawes, who was the other express rider out of Boston. He walked out of town. Revere rode across the river. Dawes walked out. He befriended the guard at the gate to Boston and just walked out. Samuel Prescott, a young doctor who was riding home from a date. He was on a date in Lexington, met up with these two guys on the road to Concord. They all got arrested because the British weren't so dull as to not think people were going to try to inform on them. Revere and Dawes got caught. Revere had his horse taken away. And it was Prescott, the local, who knew how to get to Concord through the back way, who actually alarmed Concord. But the poem, the poem has struck a chord with Americans back when it was written in the 1800s, and is still, very much in the forefront of people's minds for Patriots' Day. But yeah, there was more going on. And as I say, riders, once you started yelling and screaming and ringing bells and shooting guns, people got on their horses, rode to the next town, and then the next town, and some of them were appointed to ride all the way out to the Springfield area. And that's how that affects us.
All right, well, we will continue after a few short messages.
Since the founding of Reminder Publishing over 60 years ago, the Reminder has brought local businesses together with their customers through our advertising and coverage. Over the past 4 years, the Reminder has been adding to its reporting and expanding our readership, while other newspapers in the region, state, and country have scaled back or closed. We want local community journalism to thrive and grow, and are asking our readers and listeners to support and participate. The Reminder Press Club's mission is to ensure that local journalism is sustainable and leading healthy community discussions. The Reminder Press Club is a way for you to support the crucial work of professional reporters covering the vital stories in our community. Learn more about the Reminder Press Club or join at reminderpressclub.com.
All right, and we are back. Now, one of the things that always interests me with things like this, especially when you have multiple groups who are coming together for it, what goes into planning something of this scale, and especially something that is of this importance, this milestone anniversary?
Well, like I've said, we've had the 25th out to the house, the Smith House before, and they're always a really popular draw. Rob does a great job with the history, engaging people. And as we were putting together this year's schedule, we really wanted to figure out a way to have them come out. And like I said, the 19th just happened to be that day. So it was kind of got in touch with Rob and was like, let's do something and, run with it kind of thing. So we were able to, get them going, and then we were contacted by the Green Valley Homestead people, and so it's a great collaborative effort. So we're going to be meeting with them and kind of getting a lay of the day. So.
Gotcha. And I know we've already talked about how historically accurate this reenactment is meant to be. But, being a reenactor, can you just kind of talk a little bit about that, generally, going into that?
I'm also very interested, sorry to interrupt, but I'm also very interested in what sparked your interest in this and how it grew to the point where you are engaging in this really immersive kind of experience.
Well, I actually started out going to Civil War battlefields when I was about 4 years old. My father was a big Civil War history buff, and I spent most of my childhood family vacations visiting battlefields. And that got me really interested in the life, the equipment, the weapons. My father was a big strategist, I was more the tactician.
Mm-hmm.
And when the bicentennial hit, of course, coming from New Jersey as I do, New Jersey is nicknamed the cockpit of the Revolution because, unfortunately, the British were ensconced in New York from 1776 to 1783, and they raided into New Jersey constantly for supplies and to pick on George Washington's army when it was nearby. So we had a lot of things going on there, close to home. And I started sincerely getting interested in the Revolutionary War over the Civil War at that point in time. It wasn't until 1994, 1995 that I met up with the 25th Continental Regiment, which at the time was based out of Southampton. and investigated getting involved. It scared the heck out of my wife, but it turned out that within a year or so, she was more skilled in 18th century craft than I was. She sews,
Nice.
she makes candles, she weaves. She'll probably be doing that at the event on the 19th. There's a lot of things that went into it. And, being a reenactor, again, it is immersive. It's a lot more than just, okay, you get up, you ran out into the street, bang, bang, bang.
Mhm.
A lot of our events, especially long weekend events or 3-day events, it's hauling water from wherever the water source is, splitting firewood, cooking over open fires. There's a lot of work involved. I mean, I like to say that as a reenactor, my second job is really a circus roustabout, because you have to put up all this canvas. And our commanding officer, way back when, had a marquee-style tent, which looks like a mini big top.
Mhm.
It took like 10 people to take that thing down. He used to put it up himself, but it took about 10 people to take it down. And, we were doing all this kind of stuff, no matter what the weather.
Mhm.
So it became a real interest and not only a lifestyle change. I used to wear long sideburns down to my jaw. Well, in the 18th century, they really didn't. Everybody was primarily clean shaven.
Mhm.
So went into that. I did for 26 years wear a queue in my hair.
Mhm.
Actually made me very popular with my students. Hey, yeah, Mr. Keenan has a ponytail.
Yeah.
But I actually cut that off when I was looking into ceasing Revolutionary War reenacting.
Mhm.
I also do World War II.
Mm.
And I surprised the heck out of my wife one day when I just cut the thing off with a pair of scissors, walked in and held the hair out in front of me. It was like a scalp. She's like,
I'm sure that was
stunned.
a surprise, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, as a reenactor, this isn't a costume.
Mhm.
What I'm wearing here today, it's regular clothes. They're very comfortable. They're very breathable. Yes, you will perspire like crazy in the summertime. You freeze in the wintertime. But it is a lifestyle change when you do it for so long.
Mhm.
And there's always study. There's always something new to learn. And there's great places we can visit. It's amazing what people will let you do when you show up dressed like this, holding a musket in your hand, and they let you into a place.
Yeah.
I've gotten to do things, and not only participating in an interview like this, but have participated in a number of documentaries. Got to pound a door in with a musket butt. That was kind of cool.
Awesome.
You get to go to really neat places,
Mhm.
and historical places, even to the point, my favorite story is going to Independence Hall in Philadelphia.
Nice.
When it was under renovation back in 1996, they let us in even though the building was closed to the public,
Wow.
because we were taking modern 20th century photographs of each other out on the street in front of the house,
Yeah.
the building. They let us in and let us into the room.
Wow.
When you go as a member of the public, you stand behind
Yep.
a nice wall
Mhm.
looking into the room.
Yep.
Well, they'd taken all the furniture out of the room, so the park ranger who let us in said, "You can't hurt anything, go ahead, you want to walk into the room."
Yeah.
So I have a photograph at home where I was standing on the dais in the front of the room
Yeah.
where John Hancock's desk was and George Washington's desk was in 1787 for the Constitutional
Wow.
Convention. This is the type of thing that for a reenactor, these are the golden moments you look forward to
Of course.
and make it really worthwhile. I mean, not only talking to the public, which I have a lot of fun doing, but
Yes.
being able to go to these places and celebrate there and experience what our forefathers had
Mhm.
experienced.
Now, one thing that I'm all curious about is, obviously, one of your main roles is accurately, bring the history to life. So how much does it bother you, frustrate you to see certain, I mean, we just talked about, the idea of the British is coming, and these misconceptions that are perpetuated even in as modern media and modern entertainment, as much better as it is, there's still a lot of misunderstanding and perpetuated falsehood. So is that something that bothers you, or how?
It's extremely frustrating. I hate to key on the movie The Patriot that came out in 2000. It's a great no movie.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. As an action-adventure type of movie, it's fantastic. They did bring in the Smithsonian Institution to help them set the stage in many scenes in that.
Mm-hmm.
But the director started taking liberties because, well, the British Dragoons were wearing red coats in the movie. They didn't. They wore green coats.
Mm.
Okay, that's a nitpicky little thing. But the director said, oh, the public won't understand. Well, the bad guys are the bad guys, no matter what they look
Right.
like.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of Mel's garb was French and Indian War, but he was supposed to be a French and Indian War hero, but he would have updated the outfit a bit over the 20 years. Styles changed quite a bit, actually, in that 20-year time frame. One of the biggest things that infuriated me with it was the Gullah Maroon Village, the escaped slaves.
Mm-hmm.
The Smithsonian went down to make sure items on the tables were extremely accurate. There's only one big problem with that. Where did they put the village? They put it on a beach overlooking what looked to be a navigable waterway.
Yep.
If you're running away from people who want to enslave you, are you going to go and stand out in public and say, hey, here we
Yeah.
are? No, they would have been hiding back in a swamp someplace, a
Mhm.
malarial swamp, unfortunately,
Yep.
trying to hide out as best as possible. So there were things that in that particular movie that really jarred us. I mean, we had actually thought about going to showing over in West Springfield at the movie theater, and our commanding officer said, watch the movie first, see what you think, and then we turned around and said, yeah, we're not going in costume.
Mhm.
It's a little bit too far out there.
Yeah.
And, various things do come up that, like, the British are coming. Actually, within the reenacting community, we have some people who have the time and wherewithal that will actually go down and research how many threads there are per square inch in clothing. They will refine their appearance and their kit to the point of, it's almost ridiculous.
Mhm.
And the expense that they go through with that. And reenacting isn't the least expensive hobby you can ever get into. Most of us start out by borrowing stuff from other people until we can afford our own.
Yeah.
But, there are folks who are extreme, they make me look almost inauthentic when they come down to the fact that they've got reproduction buckle shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Straight lasted, by the way. They don't have a right or a left.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
You wear them one way and then you switch them so they wear evenly.
Yeah.
You swap feet. Very uncomfortable from what I understand. I can't wear them because of my feet, but they'll go to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a number of documentaries where, that in one respect, it was, they're trying to be extremely accurate with the documentary. We were doing a scene in upstate New York one time for the Revolutionary War series from the History Channel, and the historical consultant was going crazy over the fact that there were cows in the background and they were the wrong breed of cow.
Mm. Yeah.
He didn't happen to notice that the hay wagons had rubber wheels or the barns had tin roofs, or when one of the senior reenactors on set turned around and said, well, we're supposed to be portraying riflemen. Are you going to provide us with rifles? This musket is not a rifle.
Mm.
And we were told by the director, the public won't know any better anyway, so don't worry about it. We're sort of looking like, huh?
Yeah.
But, those are little things, And again, the longer you go on with the hobby and the more immersed you get into it, it gets more nitpicky as far as,
Sure.
I'm sure. And, obviously we've talked about the event coming up on the 19th. We've talked a little bit about the reenactment lifestyle as well. But we wanted to give you both an opportunity to talk about your respective organizations, and if the listeners, say, wanted to join or help out or learn more, where they could do that and how.
The Agawam Historical Association. We own the Thomas Smith House out in Feeding Hills. We also operate the Agawam Historical and Firehouse Museum in Agawam. And we are always looking for new members and volunteers. We have a very ambitious schedule this year. We have a spring flea market and open house at the Smith House on May 3rd. We have a new book coming out, there will be a book signing at the Agawam Public Library on May 5th. And the Firehouse Museum will be reopening after being closed for 5 years on Memorial Day. We're having a rededication
Awesome.
So we've got a lot planned this spring, and they can. We have a Facebook and Instagram, but we also have a website. It's agawamhistory.org. They can find all the information about the organization, the history of the town, become a member, and contact us through that. So.
Yeah, my group is the 25th Continental Regiment. Again, it's a reenacted regiment that actually was part of the Continental Army in 1776. The group started back in the 1980s as a fife and drum corps, and progressively researched and learned and recreated the infantry regiment that it was. Back around 2012, some of the folks wanted to take it to the next level, and we became the 3rd Massachusetts Regiment, which is now a separate group, which portrayed the same troops basically in 1777, 78, and 79. As far as contacting us, unfortunately, we do not have a website or a Facebook page at this point in time. Best bet is to come out to the event and talk to us, and we can provide you with all sorts of materials. One of the things that we promise to do for folks is that if they'd like to get a taste for an event, let us know. We can provide some extra clothing. We'll reach into our chests and totes full of 18th century clothing, dress them up, and let them experience the day. See if they like it. If they do, we would be more than happy to welcome them into the group and train them and teach them, as much as they want to learn from us, and guide them through them learning themselves and doing research and finding things they like to do. As much as we're an infantry unit, we're not exclusive to military. We have families, we have a lot of ladies who are involved, a lot of very creative ladies when it comes to sewing and that, and we're out there, and more than happy to play nice with other folks.
Good.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming out today and speaking with us. I got to say, from a personal standpoint, I wouldn't say that I'm a history buff, but anytime that I get involved in these conversations, I'm fascinated. And I think that, truthfully, the preservation of historical sites and historical artifacts and the reenactment and immersive activities that kind of bring history to life, I think are so important, especially today when we are in an era where in our educational structure, a lot of that is being kind of eroded. You're not seeing, and I know that districts and teachers are doing what they can to maintain an appreciation of history, but a lot of it is so abbreviated at this point that these organizations like yours and events like this are becoming more and more important to not only preserve the history but ensure that there's a proper understanding of history for generations to come.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to come out and talk to you today. And I do have to say again about the Smith House. It's in probably the most rural part of Feeding Hills. It's surrounded by farmland. So when you are there in that house on that property, you really get a sense that you are back in the 18th century. It really is a. I mean, I just always say how fortunate the Historical Association is that we were able to purchase that property and preserve it the way it is, and that it wasn't bought by a developer and demolished, because it really is it is a unique property.
Well, and maintaining that authenticity a lot of times is hard, in modern. I mean, you look at. I grew up in Springfield, and always originally thought that the armory as we know it was the armory, and that's not the case. When you look back at the history of it, we're very fortunate that we have that historic site, but at the same time, a lot of that history was lost. You can drive by places, but it doesn't have that same it hasn't been preserved that way. It doesn't maintain that authenticity that places like yours do. So it's great when we're able to do that.
I'd like to say thank you also for the opportunity to speak about the event in the house. And going to the house, again, because of where it's situated and the way the Historical Association has kept and refurbished the house, it is a great place to go out. Again, can look over the fields. Of course, because there's a farm field right next to it, we can do things like musket drill. And, without having to worry about, being in an urban setting. Again, Bunker Hill, for instance, they're going to have a big 250th anniversary reenactment of Bunker Hill in Gloucester. Because if you've ever been to Charlestown around the monument, the brownstone buildings all around it were not there at the time. It was open field, overgrown open field. So it's a lot different. You really can't do stuff in a place like that. Or even Long Island for the 1776 battle there. That's all, it's Brooklyn now.
Yeah.
Brooklyn is not Long Island. So, to have a site where you can go out and it be relatively untouched. I mean, yes, there are cars going by on the main street outside, but it's relatively untouched, and you can look towards the hills and can look over the fields. It's very special to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on Long Island, so you're definitely correct there. You definitely have a good spot in where you got now, so that's awesome. But yeah, thank you guys again, and to the listeners, make sure to check out the event. It's free, open to the public, and will take place from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thanks again, guys.
Yep, and that will conclude this episode of So That Reminds Me.
Thank you to all our listeners, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.